So, I don't know if you've heard, but apparently Disney is too woke now. Depending on who you ask, that could mean anything from there's a black mermaid or Snow White is half Latina to the villain isn't gay enough anymore. And look, I can't personally relate, but I get the instinct. Some people just want their media predictable. Change is scary, and nostalgia is a powerful drug. Whatever Disney movie was on VHS when you were a kid becomes the gold standard. Even if it was, say, Peter Pan. You know, the one with the what makes the red man red number? Or Pocahontas, Disney's attempt to both sides genocide and whitewash colonialism with the love ballad and a cute little raccoon. It took a little education and empathy to see how deeply problematic those films were. Disney eventually did too, quietly scrubbing away the most obvious bigotry from the catalog. So, if they've been cleaning up the old stuff, why do boomers and Gen X still worship those classics while blaming the new ones for the fall of Western civilization? Spoiler, it's not just nostalgia, it's propaganda. I know, the word sounds scary, but really, propaganda is just advertising. Not always sinister, and not always for a product. Sometimes it's selling an idea, a value, a vision of the world. And Disney's always been political, always selling something, and not just plush toys or vacation packages, but worldviews. Who deserves power, what a happy ending looks like, and who's allowed to belong. That's how you sustain power without laws. Through stories that make inequality feel like common sense. Academics call it cultural hegemony. And for most of its history, those stories came bundled with prejudice. Sometimes as subtext and sometimes not. We're talking minstrel shows with jazz-playing cats. A literal character named Jim Crow. Hook-nosed merchants straight out of 1930s Nazi propaganda. Well, Disney himself held anti-Semitic views, but now Disney's political? Got it. These days, under neoliberalism, the politics just come with a rainbow filter. Diverse casting, a same-sex couple in the background, a Pride Night castle, not revolution, rebranding. A progressive aesthetic over the same old worldview. Power is inherited, order is good, and the system doesn't change, it just looks more diverse. And that, I imagine, is most of the problem. Which brings us, inevitably, to The Lion King. A film whose messaging echoes the Great Replacement theory. The film doesn't open with a character. It opens with a hymn. A reverent chant, deep African drums, a newborn cub lifted into the dawn like a holy relic. No dialogue, no context, just spectacle. And a very clear message. The circle of life. This isn't just a song, it's the film's philosophy. Hierarchy disguised as nature. As Margaret Thatcher, patron saint of neoliberalism, once said, there is no alternative. And if that phrase had a cinematic cousin, it might be The Lion King. The film doesn't explain power, it mystifies it. And neoliberalism doesn't just normalize inequality, it naturalizes it, like gravity or weather. Some people are just more deserving than you. They buy mega yachts while you can't afford groceries. But hey, don't think too hard about it. That's just how the world works. Buy a self-help course, trust in the universe, and get with the grind set. Try to resist. You're not brave, you're disruptive, dangerous, and the system knows how to deal with people like you. In this framework, your job isn't to change. It's to adjust, find your place, make peace with it. Maybe even be grateful, because if you're built different, the system might work for you too. The rich ruling the poor? Not injustice, just nature. The circle of life. Everything exists together in a delicate balance. And that's exactly the arc Simba follows. He doesn't reclaim the Pride lands through merit, he inherits it because it was written in the stars and in the script, of course. Let's pause on that word pride. Yes, it refers to a group of lions, but it's also doing some ideological heavy lifting. Dynastic pride, legacy, inherited honor. From frame one, Simba isn't a cub, he's the cub. The prince of the animal kingdom, son of Mufasa, the wise and noble king whose authority is treated as unquestionable. So, when the savannah animals bow at the foot of Pride Rock, it's a coronation, sanctifying dynastic power beneath a rising sun. It's divine monarchy. Let's talk about the courtiers of the kingdom. Or, put it another way, who gets to sound like royalty? Despite being set in Africa, the 1994 Lion King casts nearly all of its lions. That is, the ruling class with white voice actors. The lone exception, James Earl Jones as Mufasa. His performance is powerful, even sacred, but framed in an overwhelmingly white vocal landscape. Not just in casting, but in cadence. The lions speak in that neutral American register Hollywood treats as universal, default, authoritative, which is always code for whiteness. Fast forward to the 2019 remake, branded as more woke, and suddenly, everyone in the royal circle is voiced by Black actors. Jones returns, joined by Donald Glover, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Beyoncé. It's as if Disney realized how awkward it looked to set a story in Africa with a monarchy that sounded like a Connecticut country club. So, they updated the packaging with Black star power. They didn't change the story. They changed who gets to perform the story. Or as some might call it, aesthetic progressivism. A progressive skin over an unchanged system. Even Zazu, the ever-loyal royal advisor, is distinctly British. First Rowan Atkinson, then John Oliver. Different actors, same archetype. The fast-talking steward, keeper of rules, and mouthpiece of the monarchy. This is representation without disruption. Marginalized voices performing the same old hegemony. And these small details work to define not only who rules, but who belongs within the kingdom. So as Simba grows, Mufasa shows him their domain. Everything the light touches is our kingdom, he declares. Framing Simba's future rule not as conquest, but as destiny. Wonderful for him, but every light casts a shadow. Enter the Shadowlands, a forbidden zone of danger, exile, and narrative shorthand for those people over there. This place isn't just unknown, it's unworthy. It exists outside the moral geography of the kingdom, and therefore out of favor. Then comes the real lesson, the circle of life. We eat the antelope, and when we die, we become the grass. It sounds profound, spiritual even, but it's really nature, strategically narrated by the ruling class. Until someone, say an ambitious uncle, challenges that divine order. Ideology doesn't just shape the hero, it defines the villain. And Scar's greatest crime? Redistribution of power. Now, don't get me wrong, he's manipulative, self-interested, emotionally abusive. Not a misunderstood hero. But what matters is how the film frames him and what traits it villainizes. Visually, Scar's Mufasa's mirror, and inverse. Mufasa is golden, broad, solid. His deep, booming voice radiates natural authority. Scar is lean, dark-maned, slinky. His posture is crooked. His voice, Jeremy Irons, is velvet and venom. Less soldier, more Shakespearean snake. Where Mufasa commands with his body, Scar performs with his voice. He's theatrical, wry, camp. In Be Prepared, Scar stages a fascist rally. Green lighting, goose-stepping hyenas, Nazi-adjacent choreography. He revels in it. He's enjoying the spotlight. He doesn't just scheme, he monologues, he preens, he gestures with flair. Scar isn't just the antagonist, he's coded. Queer, cerebral, effeminate, deviant. Marked as other in a golden world that worships strength, lineage, and stoicism. In a pride, dominant males sometimes share power, but only if they form a coalition. Scar and Mufasa could have done that, shared the resources, defended the territory together, but that takes mutual respect, cooperation, trust. Scar had two options: submit to his brother and live on the margins, or risk everything to take the throne. He chose rebellion, and the film punishes him for it. Then comes the wildebeest stampede. A child is traumatized. Scar seizes the moment, not out of mercy, but out of strategy. The future king is grieving, easy to manipulate, easier to eliminate. But Scar doesn't kill Simba himself. That would require follow-through. Instead, he outsources it to his hyena enforcers. And here's where it gets ugly. There's a pattern in Disney's race representation, especially under the guise of fantasy. For all the talk of inclusion, Black characters, when they do appear, are often transformed into animals, creatures, or non-human forms. The result? A distancing effect that limits the audience's ability to engage with their full humanity. Enter Shenzi. In 1994, she's voiced by Whoopi Goldberg. Brash, sarcastic, defiant, arguably the leader of the pack. She speaks in African-American vernacular English with the cadence of someone who knows exactly how much space she's taking up. We've seen her before in sitcoms, soap operas, sidekick roles. Loud, clever, always on the margins of real power. She's the sassy Black woman trope in animal form. Rooted in anti-Black stereotypes, the loud, dominant woman who challenges authority but never holds it. This trope marks resistance as dysfunction, and Black assertiveness as aggression, no matter the character's competence or leadership skills. In The Lion King, Shenzi's voice marks her as other. Not like Mufasa, Simba, or Zazu. She sounds like a threat, not just to the lions, but to the natural order they represent. Then there's Bonsai. Cheech Marin doing a Chicano accent in the African savannah. Sure, why not? You might have heard the voice before in Cheech and Chong, in Beverly Hills, Chihuahua, in just about every animated feature where a Latino-coded character needs to be funny, fiery, and fundamentally a meme. Bonsai is the archetype. Hot-headed muscle, not written to lead revolutions, only carry them out through violence. That's exactly how the Lion King uses him. Shenzi gives the orders, Bonsai enforces them. When Simba and Nala sneak into the elephant graveyard, it's Shenzi who baits him into the fight, knowing full well who will get tossed around when Mufasa arrives. Spoiler, not her. During Be Prepared, she's cool and commanding, while Bonsai and Ed march, howl, and snarl like her personal militia. Even after the stampede, when Scar wants Simba dead, Shenzi doesn't go, she sends Bonsai, because that's his role. Loyal, expendable, disposable. And this stereotype isn't harmless. The fiery, irrational Chicano sidekick mirrors real-world hierarchies. Mexican and Chicano communities cast as marginal, unstable, and threatening, whether through gang panic, immigration hysteria, or the national security bogeyman.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
It's the same framing, only the scapegoat has changed. And then there's Ed, the hyena Disney quietly swept under the rug in 2019 as if to say, yeah, let's pretend that didn't happen. In the original film, he's nonverbal, twitchy, drooling, wide-eyed, and always laughing for no reason. Ed is the village idiot trope. Comedic relief and cautionary tale rolled into one. In children's media, that portrayal is never neutral. Disability here isn't circumstantial, it's innate, essential, a marker of who doesn't belong in the Golden Kingdom. As Angela Davis writes in Freedom is a Constant Struggle, the media doesn't just reflect bias, it teaches it, coding villains with poor accents, racialized behavior, and non-normative bodies tells children quietly but persistently who belongs and who contaminates the world. So when Scar takes power, what does he do? He opens the gates to the outcast, the hungry, the marginalized, the ones banished to the Shadowlands. He gives them proximity to power, not justice. New vassals, same throne. Meanwhile, Simba does the opposite. He retreats, not to grow, but to relax. Simba's exile isn't freedom, it's apathy in a floral shirt. Timon and Pumbaa, his found family and ideological mentors, teach him to forget the past, live for himself, and avoid politics. Just good vibes only. Their mantra, Hakuna Matata. Carefree on the surface, but underneath, textbook neoliberal detachment. Not rebellion, resignation. It's survival by pretending the world's collapse isn't happening right in front of you. Call it self-care. call it anything but what it is: complicity. The problem isn't the system, it's that you care too much. Sure, maybe your dad was murdered and your usurper uncle is now circling your mom like it's Shakespeare After Dark. But hey, that's just politics, right? So Simba checks out. At first reluctantly, then fully, finding comfort in the spectacle, in the sweet, lazy luxury of exile. And when his kingdom needs him the most, he's deep in the jungle with the other runaways. Timon and Pumbaa survive by eating what they can, sidestepping competition for resources, and ignoring the hierarchies that govern lion society. Their world rejects the Pride Land's orders and obligations, yet it fosters genuine friendship, across species even. But their abundance stays within the in-group, with no sense of responsibility to the wider community. And Simba's heroic return doesn't come from growth. It comes when Nala guilt trips him, and Mufasa's ghost literally descends from the sky to issue divine marching orders. Take your place in the circle of life. To its credit, the 2019 remake almost gets this. Timon and Pumbaa, now aggressively self-aware, openly mock the circle of life. They don't see harmony, they see randomness, pointlessness, a line of indifference, nature grinding on with no moral compass, no divine logic. For a moment, it feels like the film might finally say the quiet part out loud. Maybe the food chain isn't sacred. Maybe destiny is a lie. Maybe monarchy is just a bedtime story we tell ourselves. But Disney retreats. It's not in the business of dismantling myths, it sells them, polished with the light dusting of nostalgia. We're not exiled royals with cosmic destinies, we're the audience. We're here to cheer for those better than us to rule over us. And before Simba can reclaim his throne, the land must be cleansed, purified. Enter King Scar. In a remarkably short but conveniently undisclosed amount of time, Scar takes the throne and Pride Rock decays. Scar's greatest crime isn't tyranny, it's inclusion. And the film punishes him, not for bad governance, but for violating nature itself. Grass burns, trees stripped bare. The sky turns green with smog. No rain, no prey, no growth. The Shadowlands brought to the Pride. This isn't subtle, it's heavy ideological lifting. The fall of Pride Rock is coded as the inevitable result of class rebellion and racial inclusion. Mufasa literally forbids Simba from going near the hyenas. They're exiles, meant to stay that way. So when Scar invites them into the political order, the world itself begins to die. A once thriving kingdom becomes a wasteland. Not because of drought, not because of climate change, because Scar dared to redistribute the resources. Once the hyenas gain access to food withheld from them, the kingdom naturally collapses. And there's a second layer. Under Scar, the kingdom's racial makeup changes overnight. Hyenas swarm every ledge, fill every crevice. They outnumber the lions. And I don't mean just Shenzi, Bonsai, and the kingdom's racially coded outsiders, but every outcast in the Shadowlands, a full-blown invasion. This isn't just class panic. It's Disney doing a family-friendly great replacement pitch decades before Fox News took it national. The fear that a dominant group, white, Western, native-born, is being outnumbered, displaced, erased, that outsiders won't assimilate, they'll overwhelm. It's the old disloyal elites opened the gate story. The poor, the racialized, the foreign come in, and civilization crumbles. Give them power, and they'll destroy what the rightful rulers built. Ironically, it mirrors the exact critique reactionaries level at Disney today, that the empire is collapsing because of forced diversity. Colonial propaganda, written by baby boomers, marketed to kids. And in this framework, the only solution is purification. That's Simba's job, to restore the kingdom's natural order by banishing those people over there. Send those creatures back to where they came from. Fast forward to Trump-era America, and the Shadowlands start looking a lot like the southern border. Immigrants, especially those of Hispanic origin, cast as an invading horde, coming to steal jobs, drain resources, and, as Trump himself put it, pollute the nation's bloodlines. What followed was a spectacle of cruelty. ICE raids, detention camps, and island holding cells in Florida, some nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz, or even darker, Alligator Auschwitz. So when people say Disney is too political now, maybe the politics just got harder to ignore. Peel back the spectacle, the song, the stars, the nostalgia, and you'll find the same blueprint. Kings rule by nature, dissenters destroy harmony, and inclusion equals collapse. And in the context of monarchy, since the Lion King is basically Hamlet without the interrogation of fate or moral decay, the ending could have carried a different message. Simba could have become ruler of not just Pride Rock, but king of the entire animal kingdom, shining light into the darkest of places, learning about the creatures his father shunned, breaking the cycle of violence over resources. That would have been a richer lesson for children. Embrace diversity. Understand those outside of your own community. Instead, the king who came of age in exile returns to become crowned king of the reactionaries. Thanks for watching. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I've got plenty more coming.